Let us remind the basics about diffusion and osmosis so that we'll have a detailed overview after that. When somebody sprays a deo or a perfume, that aroma spreads all over in the room, slowly and slowly. Why this happens? What is this process known as? Just think like scientists and let us answer and let us see what happens. That aroma spreads in the entire room. So the region where you sprayed, that region has high concentration of that perfume particles, that we can say as solute particles, and the other corner of the room has low concentration of the solute particles. So slowly and slowly what is going to happen, the solute particles or the perfume particles are going to move from high concentration to low concentration. This is how the movement is there in case of diffusion. Okay, so the solute particles or the perfume particles are going to move from high concentration to low concentration, and this develops what? This develops a concentration gradient. This movement of particles from high concentration to low concentration randomly develops what? It develops a concentration gradient. We will discuss what is this concentration gradient and how this affects this diffusion process. So just remember that in case of diffusion, how will you define diffusion as? The net movement of particles from a region of their higher concentration to a region of their lower concentration down a concentration gradient as a result of their random movement. So in case of diffusion, particles move from a region of their higher concentration, means where they are present more in number, to a region of low concentration, means where they are present less in number. So this movement of these particles is termed as what? It is termed as diffusion, and this is a random movement. Okay, so how is this going to happen? See, if we suppose that at that left hand side we have more perfume particles and on the right hand side we have more air particles. So what is going to be the case when we have more particles towards left hand side and towards right hand side we have less perfume particles? In fact, here we are not showing any perfume particles on the right hand side. So that region where perfume particles are more, that is a region of high concentration, and this is a region of low concentration because there are no perfume particles over here. So more particles means high concentration. So in this case we will have a steep concentration gradient. A steep concentration gradient means when the difference between the concentration on one side to the other side, that is quite large, means the difference is quite much. If we talk about, in this case we have more particles on that side and we have no particles on this side, it's a steep concentration gradient because the difference is quite large. Now if we have a few particles towards right hand side also and we have more particles towards left hand side, as you can see that region is again high concentration region, but this region is now low concentration region, but still in comparison to the previous one we have a few particles over here also. So this will result in a shallow concentration gradient. So if we draw a graph, we'll have a shallow concentration gradient, not a steep one, because we also over here have a few particles of those perfume particles. So this is a shallow concentration gradient. How this steep and the shallow concentration gradient is going to affect the rate of diffusion, means how the process of diffusion will take place. What will be its effect on the speed? We will see that. If we have a steep concentration gradient, so what is going to happen? The rate of diffusion is going to be faster. So steeper concentration gradient means a faster rate of diffusion. The diffusion will be at a faster rate. In case of shallow concentration gradient, the shallow concentration gradient means a slower rate of diffusion, means now in this case the speed of diffusion, the process of diffusion will be at a slower rate. So remember, steeper means faster and shallow means slower. Let's move on to osmosis now. What is this osmosis and how this process affects our day-to-day life also? You must be noticing when you sprinkle salt on vegetables what happens. So this is how we are going to interpret osmosis. Okay, here we have shown you have fresh water and here we have salt water. These red dots are the dots of what? These are representing salt molecules, and the blue dots are representing water molecules. So we have here pure water. On the left hand side we have pure water, and on the right hand side, because we have salt particles also, so this is salty water. Now we are going to put a partially permeable membrane. What is a partially permeable membrane? It is a membrane which is also known as semi-permeable membrane, which allows only a few particles to move across it. It will not allow all the particles to move. See, you see that the red dots or the salt molecules are not able to cross that membrane. Only the water molecules are going to cross. Generally, partially permeable membranes or semi-permeable membranes are, for example, they are egg membranes, parchment membranes, cellophane paper. They act as partially permeable membranes. So this is going to affect the movement of the particles. See, the water molecules are able to come across and cross this membrane, but the salt molecules, see, are not able to cross this membrane. So this membrane is allowing only what? The movement of only water molecules. So pure water is at high water potential and salt water is at low water potential. Wherever the number of molecules of water will be more, that solution will be at high water potential, and whenever the number of water molecules will be less, that solution will be at low water potential. This is a comparison between these two only. So when you compare these two, you will see that on the left hand side we have more water molecules, on the right hand side we have less water molecules. So it is at high water potential, it is at low water potential, and the movement is from high water potential to low water potential. So how will you define osmosis now? The net movement of water molecules from a region of higher water potential, which is a dilute solution, to a region of low water potential concentrated solution through a partially permeable membrane. Remember there the difference is you have to also mention that the movement is across a partially or semi-permeable membrane. Remember, the high water potential means we have a more dilute solution, and low water potential means we have a concentrated solution. When we added salt into water, the solution became what? Solution became concentrated. Let's take an example in case of a plant cell. You know, plant cells have a rigid cell wall, then they have a membrane. So what is going to happen in case of a plant cell? Supposing we take fresh water and we take salt water. As you know, fresh water as compared to salt water is at high water potential, and salt water is going to be at low water potential. Why it is at low water potential? Because it has salt molecules. And if we compare these two solutions, this will be dilute solution, fresh water will be dilute as compared to this, and this is going to be more concentrated solution. So how this is going to affect the movement of water molecules? As you all know, in osmosis, the movement is from high water potential to low water potential. So in case of fresh water and salt water, what is going to happen when we are going to put a plant cell? So remember, high water potential means less concentrated, it is fresh water, and low water potential means salt water. So what is going to happen when you're going to put plant cells in these solutions? In case of this high water potential, and that is fresh water, the water potential is high on the outer side and it is low in the inner side. So water will flow from outside to the inner side of the cell. So this is how the movement will take place. The movement of water is from outer region to the lower region, high water potential to low water potential. So the cell will become, in this case, turgid, because it is going to gain water in this case. So it will be more stiff, more turgid. So this cell is known as a turgid cell. But when we talk about this cell, this is low water potential region, and inside the cell it is high water potential region. So the net movement of water will be from high water potential, means from inside the cell to outside the cell to low water potential. So what will be in this case? You can see that the movement will be from inside to outside. So the cell will shrink, protoplast will shrink, and this is how the cell will look like after some time, and this type of cell is known as a flaccid cell. Okay, so remember, what is going to happen in case of plant cell if we put it in fresh water and if we put it in salt water. In fresh water we will get a turgid cell, more stiff, more turgid, and in case of salt water we are going to get a flaccid cell, okay, due to shrinkage of the protoplast material. Why so? Because the movement was from inside to outside, and in that case we had movement from outside to inside of the cell. The water molecules moved from outside to inside of the cell. So this is how this process is also known as, in case of flaccid cell, plasmolysis. So let us see what happens in case of animal cells and plant cells. If we keep animal cells in fresh water and if we keep animal cells in salt water, what is going to happen in this case? The movement of water molecules will be from inside to outside, because the outside region is at low water potential. And in case of fresh water, you will see in case of animal cells we don't have a cell wall. This is the major difference. The cell can ultimately burst when the water molecules are going to enter inside the cell. This can lead to the bursting of the cell. Why the cells will burst? Because they don't have any cell wall. Remember, in case of plant cell, that integrity, that shape is maintained because plants have a cell wall, but since animal cells do not have a cell wall, the cell can ultimately burst when we keep it in fresh water, when we keep it in a solution which is at higher water potential. Now, if we take an example in other sense, we have a 0% sucrose solution, 10% sucrose solution, 60% sucrose. Sucrose is stable sugar. So, what is going to happen? 0% means we have only water molecules, we have no sugar molecules. In 10% sucrose solution means we have a few sugar molecules, and in 60% means we have more sugar molecules as compared to this one. Remember, how can you say what is going to happen when we are going to put a plant cell in it? Remember, the flow of the movement of water molecules is from a region of high water potential to a region of low water potential. So, if we are going to put plant cells in these three solutions, in 0% sucrose solution, 10% sucrose solution and 60% sucrose solution, what is ultimately going to happen? You can make out how the cells will look like after some time when we keep the cells in these solutions. So, if we keep it in 10% sucrose solution, you will see that the potential is almost the same. Inside potential, water potential, and the outside water potential will be almost the same. So, there will be almost negligible movement of water molecules. The cell will almost maintain its shape and it will be turgid only, okay. But when you put it in 0% sucrose solution, it is purely water, it is fresh water. So, what is going to happen? The water will flow from outside to inside, will have a highly turgid cell in this case. But when we are going to put a cell in 60% sucrose solution, what is going to happen? It will lead to shrinkage of the protoplast, because the water will move from inner side of the cell to the outer side of the cell. So, we will have a more turgid cell, a less turgid cell and a flaccid cell, means here plasmolysis have occurred. Okay, this process is known as plasmolysis. So, it is a more turgid plant cell and it is more flaccid plant cell, because this process is also known as plasmolysis. Remember, whenever in the lab, for practical point of view, you are asked to prepare a solution of 60%, supposing somebody asks you to prepare 60% sucrose solution. So, how are you going to prepare 60% sucrose solution? Remember that percentage is in case of ml, okay, 100 ml. So, this percentage implies for what? It implies for 100. So, what you have to do is, you will take 60 gram of sucrose in 100 ml of water. How are you going to prepare 60% sucrose solution? Remember, 60 gram of sucrose in 100 ml of water. This is how you will prepare 60% sucrose solution. Okay, next, if we take an example of, supposingly I say that you prepare 10% sucrose solution. So, I hope now you have got what I am trying to say. This percentage means 100 ml. So, you will prepare 10 gram of sucrose in 100 ml of water. This is how you are going to prepare the solutions if you are asked to prepare in the lab. 60% means 60 gram in 100 ml, 10% means 10 gram in 100 ml, simultaneously 20% means 20 gram in 100 ml, 30% means 30 gram in 100 ml of water. So, this is an important aspect when you work in a lab. How will you be preparing these solutions? 60% means 60 gram, 50% means 50 gram in what? In in, remember, in 100 ml. When we talk about in terms of percentage, we are talking about 100 ml of the solution. So since sucrose is what? Sucrose is solid. So why we are not taking 60 gram of this and 40 ml of water? Why? Because whenever we have 100 ml of water, the 60 gram sucrose is going to fill inside the empty spaces. Okay, the 60 gram sucrose is going to fill inside the empty spaces. So the water level is not going to rise. Okay, so that is why we are putting 60 gram of sucrose in 100 ml of water. Why? Because when we have 100 ml of water, there are some empty spaces already. That 60 gram sucrose or the 10 gram sucrose is going to fill in the empty spaces and the volume will not increase. Okay, so now just remember how you are going to make these solutions. Next, if we move on to another important aspect that I want to discuss before I begin with the whole chapter, remember that HDT and LCF. Now, these are the basics. So, HDT means H is for high water potential, D is for a dilute solution and T is for turgid cell. Again, L is for low water potential, C is for a concentrated solution and F is for flaccid cell. This is how you can remember in these terms. Remember, H is for what? It is for high water potential. In high water potential, if the water potential outside the cell is high, it means the solution is what? The solution is a dilute solution and the cell is going to be what? T for turgid. And if we talk about the next, LCF, LCF means L for low water potential and the solution is known as concentrated solution and F is for a flaccid cell. So this is what you can see in this image also. When the cell is kept in high water potential, when the solution is at high water potential and the inner side of the cell is at low water potential, what is going to happen? That solution is known as a dilute solution and the cell is going to be turgid, as you can see in that image. But when we talk about LCF, means when the solution outside the cell is at low water potential, means the inner side is at high water potential, the water will move out. This solution is concentrated solution because it is having these salt molecules in it. So it is concentrated as compared to 0% sucrose solution. So the cell is going to be what? Flaccid. So high water potential, dilute solution, turgid cell. Low water potential, concentrated solution results in what? It results in a flaccid cell. So high water potential, dilute solution results in a turgid cell. Low water potential, concentrated solution results in a flaccid cell. I hope now these basics are very clear to you. So now we are going to move towards the intricate